What's up, everybody, and welcome to the FPL WildCats Live. Thank you so much for joining us today as we look forward to double game week 34 and, of course, double game week 35, as I'm sure a lot of us have played our wildcards. So before we start, if you want to share out the stream, please feel free to do so. Hit that like button, and I will pass over to Nymphria, our hostess with the mostess. Take it away.
Yeah, thanks, Jay, and welcome everyone to the show. It's been an exciting few weeks because three of us have been found out to be honoured in the Football Blogging Awards as finalists. So, in the Best Fantasy Football Creator category. So, thank you very much, and everyone who voted. We're extremely grateful. So, thank you for that. Now, we've had a blank and a double game week since we last streamed. But how did we get on last game week 33? So I think we'll go to Brett first because he had a particularly good one, I believe.
Hey guys, yeah, I did have a good week. After 3 successive red arrows, where I kind of felt like I wasn't getting any decision right, things did come together quite well this game week, which was nice. So my transfer this week was Lanzini out. For West Ham, obviously, a bit of a bad punt a few weeks ago for the blank game weeks. Didn't really pay off. So he went out, easy decision. And I brought in Yuri Tielemans for Leicester. And obviously, he was in great form and kept that form going and got 9 points. And most importantly, he was very low owned. So his 9 points really kind of helped me up the rankings as a differential. A notable shout out to Luca Digne. Obviously, he's kind of stayed in my team mostly on the bench the last few weeks, and I've missed out on a lot of clean sheets. Played him at home to Arsenal, which I wasn't expecting a clean sheet there. I was more hoping for attacking returns, to be honest. But yeah, a little bit, I suppose. Arsenal are not very good away from home, are they? Let's be fair. So I played him over Wan-Bissaka and they got about the same amount of points. But yeah, Digne was a nice surprise. And then the big call was basically who to captain between Hazard and Vardy. It was always between those two for me. It was a 50-50 coin flip. I captained Vardy, but in the end it didn't really matter. They both delivered 16 points each. So yeah, Tielemans, Vardy, Leicester were the big players for me, and then Digne as well, getting the 8 points. 85 in total, so a very nice score, especially because the average was 36, so a massive score compared to the average, and a big rank boost. So I'm up to 24k now, and feeling more positive because I was at 44k before this week. So yes, hopefully I can do well with the wild card now for tomorrow.
Cool. Well, I actually had a great game week as well in 33. I captained Vardy like Brett. Just a real gut feel for me. Just really fancied him. Paid off, thankfully. That was quite a big green arrow for me, being lower than Brett and Jay in the overall rankings. So I jumped from around 143k to 97k. So it was a fairly good game week. Main contributors to my points, obviously, other than Vardy, was Azpilicueta, Wan-Bissaka, Hazard, obviously, who got the same amount of points, and Salah, of course. Salah being back. Salah and Mane have been good to me the past few weeks. They've somewhat shared the points between them, but having both has kind of paid off because at least I've had one of them when each has hauled, instead of kind of getting on and off like a lot of other people have. And it kind of reminded me a lot of City last season, actually, where we had two attackers and we just would wait to catch a haul from at least one of them when it happened. So it's going to be a bit of a tough decision for me, to be honest, on this wild card, on whether to carry the two of them forward now or not, because obviously there's a lot of cash and not only that, room tied up, in those two players. So I'll have to see. Yeah, there's been a lot of wildcard drafts this week, as I'm sure there has been for a lot of people. But yes, very happy. Cannot complain with my green this week. So I will head on over to Jay. How did you get on?
I mean, I can't really complain. I did rise in rank by about 4k to 16,000. But I got the captaincy call wrong. I like how you said Salah and Hall in the same sentence, because I can't look at 6 points and getting a yellow card for taking your shirt off as a Hall when I've got Hazard and Vardy in my side, and I didn't captain either of them, which is painful because about an hour beforehand, as the Wildcats know, I had Vardy as captain, and I changed it because I was worried Vardy doesn't score big that often.
Because Brett made him captain. That's why you changed it.
They've got this conspiracy that I just don't pick Brett's captain. But
normally very good advice.
Yeah, normally. It didn't work this week.
Yeah.
But to be honest, until like an hour beforehand, it was going to be Hazard or Vardy for me. And then I thought, this is one of the few times where I don't think many people are captaining Salah. Does do something big, then it could be a massive jump in rank. So that is why I went with it. That, and I just didn't fancy Hazard or Vardy, and I was completely wrong. Otherwise, only Azpilicueta and Digne returned me any points to get 68 points in total. But it's not awful. I just feel like it could have been a lot better. The main problem with my side, although it doesn't matter now because I'm playing the wild card, was the midfielders I went with as differential haven't returned for the last 4 or 5 game weeks. Barnes, Almiron, Fraser. Every now and again they turn up with an assist, but that's about it. So I'm quite happy to play my wild card, except for the fact that it gives me a headache trying to figure out which players to pick.
Yeah, for sure. I know what you're saying about the whole Salah thing and a haul, but I just mean generally it's easy to miss the points if we're selling one and buying another, and that's probably more what I meant rather than horse. Although Mane has given me a few, so I can't complain too much. Kurt, how did you get on?
Well, I was really impressed with myself. I got 66 points.
Wow.
My game week rank was inside the top 400,000. I've now moved to inside 1.5 million, which I looked on my game week history, and it made me very, very unhappy. Because I looked at the fact that I haven't been this low since game week 22, and that's not very good. And also adds to the fact that I thought I did really well, and everyone else above me is complaining about how they could have done better. I must be missing some sort of trick this season.
Complaining.
Yeah.
I think everyone else is happy. I think it's me.
I was thinking that, looking at the average, thinking to be complaining when you're over 30 points above the average, that is something.
I'm definitely not complaining with 76 points.
No, 66 points. A very good game week for me, considering it was blank game week. I basically had the players that I was selected. I decided to bank the transfer for some absurd reason, forgetting that there were 2 double game weeks. Because I had a few plans, but I forgot you can't use 2 chips in 1 week. So if I were to wildcard, I couldn't use the triple captain or the bench boost, for example. So that sort of led me to keeping it, but I've ended up going back on that anyway. I'm using my wildcard this week. My main captaincy worry was Hazard or Mane. Fortunately, I picked Hazard because I just had this big feeling he was going to come up trumps, and like he did, I think he proved why he's world class. And to think that the confusing thing about this season is that he's been called a fraud this entire season. I think he's now 1 point behind Salah, who's the most consistent player in the world. So I don't get it. I just don't get it. But it will still be a fraud if he gets 5 points in the next game week and Salah gets 6. So who knows? I also had Vardy in my team. That was nice. Azpilicueta, shame about the yellow card. And a player I didn't even realise I had until the game week was over was Pereira. I completely forgot I had him in my team. Just shows how much I've been thinking about FPL recently. And he picked up 6 points with another cheeky assist, 2 goals, 7 assists this season. It's not too bad. I'm not going to complain too much at all. 66 points. Use my wild card now, and onwards to the top 10k. You never know.
Yeah, well, you could do it. Why not? Go for it. Aim high.
I can't do it. I'll take top.
Why not?
Well, I mean, I've still got 1.478 million to get through, but you never know. You never know.
It would be impressive.
It would be the comeback of all comebacks, to be fair.
And you know what will happen? Last game of the season, I'll make a last-minute transfer, bring in Salah and captain him, and he'll push me over the 1k line. That'll be it.
Oh, I'm not sure about
that. That'll be it. But no, it's been a good few game weeks for Kurt, and he is impressed.
Yeah, cool. Do we have any questions in the chat, please?
Yeah, we've got loads of questions actually flying in. We've probably got about 15 questions here. As soon as we started the streams, a lot Obviously, I'm assuming lots of people are on the wild card, that kind of thing. Double game weeks
Wildcard
coming
fever.
up. So we'll start with Alex Summerson. His question is a good one. He wants to know best Kane replacement. So obviously, Kane was in a lot of our plans. He was in mine particularly anyway. He was probably my captain for this week and a big part of my wild card. So Kane, they've released a statement today. They don't know how long he's going to be out for, but it's significant ligament damage. So it doesn't sound good at all. So we can assume he's going to be out for at least a couple of weeks. So who do we think? What do you reckon, Nim? Was Kane in your plans? And if so, who have you now replaced him with?
Kane was in my plans. He was one of the first I put in. He was also my free hit a couple of weeks ago. I'm not really sure why he was in my plans, because I was quite concerned about the fact that he wouldn't return, to be honest. And I do know that in the past, Huddersfield has been, a bit of a sticky wicket for other people who might have obviously got him in for that particular game. But it's one of those things where I think when you saved up the money and you've got the cash in the bank, that you're always going to take the punt on the player you think is best for the price. And Kane is definitely one of those people. So I definitely considered him. He was in my wildcard team. I did do a video, and the video was exporting as the match was on and was just finished just as Kane then went and got injured. So that was great, because then, Kane was sat there in a wildcard draft that then had to be in a video that was uploaded to YouTube. YouTuber problems. But alternatives. To me, I was keeping Vardy anyway. I hadn't really planned to get rid of him. I am very happy with his next fixture, and until he drops off form, I will probably keep hold. I am definitely taking a different approach to the wildcard thing. I'm not going to load my team with doublers. I am definitely keeping my better players and then trying to add to my team with other players that either have a double or just to get rid of the people who weren't in form, really. So for me, it's an easy switch from Kane to Aguero as far as I'm concerned. And I want to try and leave my team a bit flexible so that I can change that position up. But there's definitely plenty of options. But for me, Aguero, yeah.
Pretty convenient switch, I suppose, isn't it? One big hitter to another. Yes. What do you reckon, Jay? Was Kane in your plans, and who have you got to replace him now?
Oh, he literally came in as soon as I hit that wildcard button.
Yeah,
straight
me too.
away had the captaincy armband.
Yeah.
Him not being available has made it quite difficult, purely because he was a massive part of my team value. Mm-hmm. And now that he's gone, I'm looking at my team value every time I pick a draft, and I've still got about 3 million left in my team value. Which just feels wrong.
Yeah.
Aguero is the easy switch. I have Aguero in my current draft team. But now that Kane isn't there, there's just so many strikers up. I'm planning to keep Vardy because his next two fixtures are good. Newcastle and West Ham. I think he's shown against the teams he's currently been playing against in this Leicester side, he can definitely return the point. Worth keeping. The issue is then, if I go Aguero and Vardy, who else do I get? I'm actually very interested in Firmino, and I know Brett had some issues on in this. But from what I've seen at Liverpool, with Salah playing out wide, Mane and Firmino may be better options. I'm potentially looking at doubling up on Liverpool attack and not going with Salah. Other than that, as far as forwards go, Jimenez, I just can't look at getting rid of him with a double coming up. The value he's offered, the consistency. The other one I'd be tempted by would be Troy Deeney. He does like playing Arsenal.
He does.
He has been on good form recently. And I feel like there are teams now that still have something to play for. Watford are still one of those teams where they might not actually improve their league standing that much, but they've still got an FA Cup to look forward to. Wolves potentially still want to get that 7th place in case Man City win the FA Cup. Then they've got... And then, of course, you've got the top 6 fighting for either top 4 or for the title, and then teams trying to avoid relegation. Those are kind of the teams I'm focusing on. If I was picking strikers, it'd be from any of those sides. Me, Aguero's the nice easy.
Yeah, sure. Kurt, who's your Kane replacement?
I always
it's
seem to.
been a red card. Sorry. Is it red or yellow? Is it red
So,
or yellow?
guys, this is where you enjoy watching Nim watch a football game.
Sorry. I probably should have said that right at the beginning,
She's going to forget that she's even streaming. I mean, we're hoping there's no top coming off and running around the room.
I can't promise that. Although that tends to happen when we go behind and then we come back again. That's usually when
I've got a Nim cam set up on my scenes. I'll quickly switch to that. It'll be full screen of Nim running around her room with her top off.
I thought it was a red. I don't think it is. Just a yellow. He did pull the red out of his back pocket, but he's not. Sorry. Crack on.
All that for a yellow bleeding card.
And it's only an Arsenal game.
Yeah, so it's nothing important.
Don't be saying stuff like that. I mean, you be falling out, dude. Be falling out. Yes.
I have no idea what the question is, by the way.
Who are you replacing Kane with?
Yes, that's what.
Well, weirdly enough, and this is probably where I go wrong. I never seem to have the same answer as anyone on here, which is worrying. I never had Kane in my team in the first place. Currently, he could have been brought in for game week 34 as my one transfer, but I doubt it. At the moment, it's downgrading to Son because I much prefer Son without Kane there. As we saw when Kane went injured, Son got the all-important goal and looked very, very good. My out there pick, I'm not sure if anyone would seriously consider it, but one that's in my team at the moment is Glenn Murray.
Yeah, it's not out there at all, mate. Not out
it is it's a darn sight cheaper, about 6 million, maybe 5 million cheaper, but that frees up money in midfield, defence, so you can upgrade a cheap defender into a premium and then a cheap midfielder into a premium potentially. And that also could mean you could transfer out someone like Fraser to Son. And I really like the move at that. So Glenn Murray at the moment is sitting in my team and he's freed up quite a bit of cash. And I quite like it. He's actually starting instead of Mane. And the best thing with Glenn Murray, I forgot to add, is that he's got a double game week in 34 with Bournemouth and Cardiff and a double in 35 with Wolves and Spurs. Tougher games in 35, but points nonetheless. And this game week especially, I think it could be a game week to remember for Glenn Murray.
That's the thing with Brighton players, because people are saying, well, the fixtures in game week 35 aren't great, but it's still 4 fixtures in 2 game weeks, so it's still a lot of games, a lot of opportunities to pick up some points there. Obviously, I had Kane in my team. Like Jay said, he was like the first player that came in. I had him captained. He hadn't scored at the new stadium yet, and at home to Huddersfield, I fancied Kane to be the one. He would be hungry for a few goals there. Now that he's obviously out, yes, the Aguero switch is convenient, but I'm still torn. I'm torn whether I just put Aguero in, easy switch, or I go cheap up front now and not have Kane and go to Troy Deeney. It's basically a 50-50 now whether I go Aguero or Deeney.
Wow. Which is comparing Kane or Deeney.
Yeah, Aguero or Deeney, obviously it's a big drop in price and quality of player, I guess. I think, and I was going to say, someone in the comments, Brian Ewell, he commented saying, I have replaced Kane with Deeney. This season is ridiculous. And that's kind of what I've done at the moment, Brian. In my current draft, I've got Deeney in for Kane. I am worried to go without Aguero, but it obviously frees up a lot of money to bolster the midfield. And Man City options are just concerning me a bit because of rotation. The fixtures in game week 35 aren't that great anyway. Palace away is never an easy trip. They've got a crazy schedule. I think that Aguero is going to start most of these games, but obviously his minutes are going to be managed. Back maybe like 10, 15 game weeks ago when he was starting, but always coming off of 60 minutes, They have got a crazy schedule. So at the moment, I've got Deeney, and then I've used that money to bolster the midfield. So, we've mentioned obviously a lot of options there. We've mentioned Firmino, Deeney. and Aguero. I think those three are probably the most popular replacements for Kane, assuming that most people have already got Vardy and Jimenez, because they're the kind of two stalwarts in most people's drafts. And Glenn Murray as well, that we've seen in quite a few people's teams. But yeah, hard to say which is best. It's whether you want Aguero's the best player, but it's do you want to risk not going with him and bolstering the midfield, which is the dilemma I'm having at the moment.
I think for me, the reason I like leaning towards Aguero is that now is the point in my season where I actually put a decent amount of money into my bench. So even if Aguero doesn't play, I'm hoping that I've got, especially if I'm considering a bench boost between now and the end of the season, I need fairly decent players on my bench. So for me, my thought is if Aguero doesn't play, then hopefully I get the likes of somebody like Deulofeu or, somebody like that off the bench, which I'm pretty happy to have coming in. So I guess that's my thinking, at least with that. It's risky, of course it is, but he hasn't let me down all season. I can't see him letting me down towards the end of the season. So
yeah, I guess
now.
One thing to note with the Palace game is obviously Sacco still being out injured, and Tompkins did go off injured in the last game.
Yes, and Palace have as bad a record at home as we do away. They're like our mirror opposites.
Yeah. So there could be a few goals there, to be fair.
The major thing is, if City were clear favourites for the title, you'd probably be thinking Aguero isn't playing. He's going to get rested. They've got a Champions League game around. But because it's so tight for the Premier League as well, there's all this pressure on Man City to win as many trophies as possible in the season. I just feel like Aguero has to start. I agree, his minutes will definitely be managed.
Aguero will start, in my opinion, 100%. Yeah. It's actually Sterling that I worry about in this game.
There's so many options for Sterling as well, isn't there?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, at Sheriff_Ed asked which City player won't start out of Aguero and Sterling. He thinks Sterling won't play, but obviously will Aguero play after his penalty miss? Could it be a factor? But obviously he says Sterling playing in the FA and against Tottenham, does that make him more likely to rotate? So that was one of
obviously it's all a guessing game, we can never second guess Pep, but if I was to put my money on something, I would say Sterling doesn't start this one. They're a goal behind in this Tottenham fixture now in the Champions League. They're going to need Sterling for that one. Away to Palace, he's got the likes of Bernardo Silva, who was rested. He's got Leroy Sané, who was rested. There's a lot of options there to come in for Sterling, Aguero obviously only played 70 minutes, and despite him being injured recently, that's kind of like a little bit of rest that he's had. So I think Aguero's definitely going to start the Palace game. I think Sterling will miss out, but it is a guessing game, so I would never go off what I'm saying. That's just my prediction.
If there's anything I would say about Aguero is that watching him in the match the other night, I didn't feel like he was back to his best. I do still feel like he's coming back from that injury. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. He wasn't quite as kind of run into a lot of space self and, providing a lot of options. He was a bit more kind of, I'll hang about here and wait and see if I get the ball at my feet, which is, it's not really like him. At his best, we see him moving into channels where there's space and things like that. So that would be the only thing that's slightly concerning me about Aguero, if I had any concern at all. But as I say, I think I'm willing to risk it. And, it's just going to be tough now. Teams are going to rotate, especially the big teams where we get all of our players from, So we are going to have to take some risks with whoever we choose. But as you say with Pep, you just don't know, and I would just rather have them for the times that they play than not have them. That could be at the detriment of my own OR, but I know I will feel better having them in my team, and when they start, knowing I've got them, than kind of being sat there without a Sterling or Aguero, or even both of them, and then them starting and me thinking, oh God, what have I done? What have I done? They're not there. They're not there.
That is a worry. Yeah,
So,
that's kind of the position I'm in now, because I feel like I'm tempted to go without, but exactly like you said, Nim, it is the stress factor. Then it's horrible going into a game week an hour before the game starts. They release the lineups. You see the likes of Aguero or Sterling starting, and you're like, oh no, here's 90 minutes of stress now. I haven't got either of them. And the luxury is, if they do miss out, it's kind of like, well, I know they're going to start the next one, and then they can deliver 15 to 20 points in one game, so it does often even out. So yeah, it is a risky strategy to go without. It's just, I'm just looking at it and thinking, well, Palace away isn't the best fixture on paper. And then they've got, the Champions League against Spurs, and they've got Spurs again and United.
But
so
it could be inspired. Like, honestly, like, going without could be inspired, and like, whoever's brave enough to do it, then, it could be absolutely inspired. It's just not for me. I'm not that brave.
What I'm thinking in my head, it's not going to be for all the season. Look, it's more, I'm going to maybe the next 2 game weeks, and then for the Burnley fixture, maybe then target the likes of Sterling or Aguero, and then for 37, 38, But it's very tough. It is tough. I
did just want to say there are 2 strikers, premium strikers, that we have obviously missed out, and that is Aubameyang,
yes,
and Lukaku.
We didn't discuss those. I was going to mention that actually. Have they scored or something? Or
no.
Okay.
I think we might have a super chat. Do we?
Yeah. I didn't want to interrupt, but Steve Wynyard has
given
us a super chat.
Steve, was that Steve?
Yeah, Steve Wynyard.
Oh,
that's the second super
much,
chat.
Steve.
So thank you so much,
Steve. Thank you.
We'll get to your question. I'm sure we'll get to your question.
We will definitely get to your question. But yes, we should probably touch upon your likes of Lacazette and Aubameyang and Lukaku / Rashford. I've had a bit of a feeling that Lukaku could do quite well against his old club. So I have considered him a couple of times. He's kind of made his way into the team. I think my biggest thing is that I only have 3 forward spots, which is really quite annoying, because I'd like 5 right at this moment in time. In terms of Lacazette and Aubameyang, I didn't realise until this week that Aubameyang had quite a bad case of. I knew that he'd been unwell, and that's why they'd been managing his minutes, but I didn't realise quite how unwell he'd been, and the fact that he'd been on a course of antibiotics. So the reason he didn't start, and the reason he's been managed a lot more, Emery was saying for this press conference, was that he's actually been really quite ill. And it's obvious when Aubameyang plays, our output is just so much better. We are better as a team when he's on the field. So I think it might depend. Clearly, with us winning now, that's going to help with who starts, I think, on the weekend and stuff like that. I'm tempted. I am tempted to go with one of them. I wasn't, I will have to admit, but now that I know that the reason why Aubameyang's been managed was because of that, it makes me feel a lot happier about kind of having him in. To me, he's a lot like Aguero, as in, even if he comes on for the last 20 minutes, it's very likely that he could get something in that time for you. So I'm going to try and leave some money in the bank so that I can be flexible, I think, is the key thing here. Just maybe not use all my cash in once, or even if I do, have a very specific plan about where I can get the money from to shift to, so that I can I think I went a bit too early on my wild card. I'm happy to hold my hands up and say, actually, okay, it means I might not have been able to bench boost or triple captain next week, but next week I would have had more information, as far as I'm concerned, on some of the teams that I'm interested in.
Especially in terms of Man City and Tottenham and who goes through in the Champions League, because that could be pivotal.
Yeah, exactly.
Because then there's
So,
no worry for rotation. Whoever gets knocked out there. If Man City do lose to Spurs, then Man City come right back on the radar again. It's
yeah.
like, well, they haven't got to rotate as much now. So
Exactly. So yeah, I think I might have gone a bit too early, if I'm honest. So I'm happy to hold my hands up and say that. So the key now is to have some flexibility, leave some money in the bank and have some flexibility. But I'm not ruling out your likes of Lacazette, Aubameyang, or Lukaku or Rashford. But I don't think they'll be in the team this week, if that makes sense. It'll be a case of I might get one look at them this weekend coming forward. Now, clearly, Aubameyang and Lacazette are playing tonight, so now it would be interesting to see who starts on the weekend.
Tricky one.
And then if they both start on the weekend, you could pretty much say, okay, well, I could get one of them and, be happy they're going to get the majority of the minutes now that Aubameyang is well again. That's how I would look at it, So, yeah. Okay, Steve, let's have Steve's question.
Cool. It's a simple one. He just wants us to talk about captaincy this week.
Okay.
So, Kurt, who's sort of front runner for your captain choice?
Well, I'm going to put it out there right now. The person I've mentioned, it might get a few, oh yeah, that's not a bad choice, but I don't think many of you would have gone for it. I just want to... No, I'm not.
Come on, Kurt never does what you expect him to. I
just want to bring up a quick question. I might be.
He's going Duffy.
There are some things you don't say to a man, and is it Salah is definitely one of them for me. No, I just want to bring up a question and sort of steal Brett's role a bit. From oh my goodness me, I've just realised what the name is. I do apologise. Priyakit Baransin.
Dear Lord.
What are you trying to do? That sounds like a good attempt.
I'm going to call you PB. Deal Wildcats, last time I asked for your help, you told me to go with my gut and captain Alonso in the week where Hazard hat-tricked. Here's your chance to redeem yourselves. Captain Duffy, Son or Ericsson. I am not captaining any of them, but I am captaining Dunk because he's a bit cheaper than Duffy. And I am, well, at the moment this is.
You mean the yellow card machine?
Scared. What's wrong with that? I mean, have you seen Duffy's last game for Blackburn? 2 own goals and then got sent off. I'm not risking that on a double game week. And Ashley Young last week, that's bad enough. -1. No, I quite like the looks of Brighton. I think they're a solid enough team. They've got 6 clean sheets of Dunk on the pitch this season. Granted, he does have his fair share of foul play in him. But he's also got 2 goals, 1 assist recently against Palace, and home to Bournemouth, home to Cardiff. Cardiff will be fighting for their lives, but Brighton have still got something to play for this game week. So I think I've got to try and rise up the ranks somehow. Potentially, I'm overlooking things. It would either be Dunk or Camarasa for my captaincy this week, and I just can't see myself looking past Dunk. I think the clean sheet is there for at least one of them. Any scoring returns means
hoping for a slam dunk then.
Yeah, literally, nice. I'm hoping for it's all or nothing. It's all or nothing, and I've just realised what that is. Oh gosh, I just realised the pun. I don't know. Did you mean to do the pun? Oh.
Yeah, of course.
Anyway, going for Dunk, and I'm really upset.
It'll be all over Twitter if it works, mate.
Be a genius.
In terms of Camarasa, I was a bit of a pre-season kind of bigger upper of his. So my concern is that he tends to do better at home, I think. So you might want to check that one if you're considering him. I think he tends to get the majority of his points at home, and I think both of his double game weeks are away. So maybe one of the lads can check that for me.
Yep.
And
away against Burnley and away against Brighton.
And I fancy Burnley against them.
Yeah, Burnley have been good recently. And in terms of Dunk, he's a great shout in terms of getting attacking returns, but is more likely, and is the reason I think why Duffy is on more points and things like that, is because he's more likely to foul people and get cards. So just bear that in mind if you're captaining him, which probably means he's less likely to get things like bonus points and stuff like that than what, say, a Duffy would be. So, yeah.
Okay,
And remember, you're in the community clash, Matt.
Oh, I see. That's where your priorities lie. You've done fine without my points for most of the season. Why do you need them now?
Because we're on a roll.
So who else are we all considering for captaincy?
Jay, who are you thinking?
I mean, right now my captaincy is on Son. For me, it's either likely to stay on Son or go to Vardy. I can't really see past Son against Huddersfield, especially now Kane is out. I think I just fancy that fixture, and I don't want to overthink it like I did last week and change it and then be really disappointed with myself. So I think I'm likely to stick with Son. As far as if I was going to captain Brighton option,
Lacker's coming off.
That's good for his minutes.
Mm.
I reckon if I was going to go, it might be Duffy as captain. I generally don't captain defenders. I think Duffy does offer.
What are you doing, people? No,
I'm not going to do it.
Oh.
I'm just saying if I was going to captain a Brighton player, it would probably be Duffy, purely because Murray hasn't done much recently, and I don't think he'll play both games. He won't start both games. I also think Duffy has better goal threat.
He has a better XG or something than Murray, doesn't he? I think Duffy. Yeah.
And then the only other option I see is you can maybe look at.
Yes. Go on. Sorry.
You're not sorry at all. You're like, I care about this Arsenal game more.
You know, we would pick to do the
It's a
trophy.
Knockout is one I have looked at as well from Brighton, but I wouldn't captain him. But Knockout is definitely one I've been looking at. But as far as captaincy, for me, it's Son or Vardy.
So, Jay, on the discussion of Son, Steve Wynyard's in the chat wants to know, does anyone think Son might be rotated? Are you at all concerned about Son getting rested?
I am concerned, but generally I'm concerned about a lot of players getting rested, especially in that top six.
Sure.
If you look at all the teams, they are all capable of rotating pretty much. There are certain players you're probably a bit more confident with. For instance, Pogba, you look at and think he's going to play, but I don't want Pogba. Hazard probably is likely to play in the Premier League because I think Chelsea is still looking at their games in Europa, thinking they're winnable without Hazard. But when you get to when you get to Spurs, the fact that Kane is out, the fact that it looked like Dele Alli had some sort of knock.
Yeah.
He's broken his hand. He's broken something in his hand.
Yeah, I think I read that he might still play for the season.
Yeah, they got to see if he's got. Yeah, he can play.
But who are you going to play? Eriksen, I think, is going to play. I think a lot of people have brought in Eriksen because if you are going to rest Son and you don't have Kane and Ali, then you have to play Eriksen, surely. Then you've got Mora, Lamela, and Llorente. Do I see them going with all three of them? Not really. Because they still want that top four. They want Champions League next season.
You don't want to overcompensate against Huddersfield, do you? You wouldn't want to, especially with Kane and Ali missing, you wouldn't want to get too cozy, if you know what I mean.
Imagine you don't win, you don't get top four because you didn't beat Huddersfield.
Yeah.
That would be, I think for any team, that would be a bit like, we messed that up. So I definitely think Son probably keep it, and then hopefully, if he doesn't start... Do you know how difficult it is trying to talk?
I'm sorry. We just had an epic chance on the break. I'm sorry.
I believe...
It is.
I believe what I was going to finish
only because of a really good save, so...
I think what I was going to finish on was, I'm hoping if Son is rested, he won't get played at all. Because if you're going to rest him, then bring him on just because you're not winning, which hopefully you'll win against Huddersfield anyway.
Yeah, you would fancy them to be a couple of goals up. If he doesn't play, you'd hope that they would not need him.
Yeah.
So I get what you're saying. Yeah. Nim, have you gone with your captain? Have we heard who you're captaining?
I haven't really decided yet. very tempted with Vardy again because
Gaitan Bong?
Sorry.
Gaitan Bong, Brighton's left back.
Oh.
Should we just all captain one of the Brighton defence? Like,
Yeah.
Dunk, Duffy.
I think we need the glow
Wait,
box again.
This
I think we
isn't
need
the
glow
Dare
box
episode.
again.
Let's
Yeah.
I haven't looked at a chili bottle since. Oh, sorry. Carry on.
So yeah, it's between Vardy and Son for me as well. Actually, yeah, it's a difficult one this week. I think my gut again is saying to stick with Vardy to keep him, which tells me that I think he'll do something again. You know, he's at home and he looked really good at home last time, so that's kind of, I think, edging me towards leaving the captaincy there. But I am tempted to take the punt on Son with it being Huddersfield as well, you know, so it is a difficult one. I think it might, because there's a bit of a thing floating around that Son got a bit of an injury as well. So I'm assuming Poch's presses are tomorrow, so I'd much rather I think just wait until that's completely done with and just make sure before I definitely settle on a captaincy.
Hopefully he misses a day of training because that normally seems to be they're going to have a big haul.
Oh, God, don't. Yeah, okay. I've got a good question here from @tame_pigeon. He'd like to know, is Sigurdsson a good differential instead of Jota? No one's talking about him and he's away to Fulham. Should be easier than Saints away. Can then swap him in the double game week 35 to somebody else. So, Kurt, Sigurdsson, what do we think?
Well, I think one of you put it in the chat the other day that Sigurdsson has got a hefty amount of points, and I was stunned by it.
Yeah.
Because I do like Sigurdsson, and I think he's had better seasons, but 155 points. I mean, granted, it'd take a minor miracle not to get above his second best points total, which is 158 from 15-16, but it was, you know, I think the point with me is that I always consider Gylfi Sigurdsson the playmaker, the assister. You know, if someone's going to take a free kick or a corner and put it slam back, right on the defender's head, it's going to be Sigurdsson. But only 4 assists this season, but 12 goals, and yeah, it's definitely one to consider. I'm not 100% sure still on Everton. I think that they're still a bit 50-50, but the fact Sigurdsson's got 155 points means that you're bound for some good game weeks, and you take the Man United and Spurs games out. Fulham away, they're already down. Palace away, that's a game that you can really take advantage of. And then Burnley at home. Burnley away might have been a tougher fixture. Burnley at home, is a great fixture, and it's one to consider. He's not in my plans at the moment, but a couple of injuries and he'll be straight in the team. Way I look at it.
He's one of my mum's faves. I don't know if I mentioned this on the stream before. Like Aguero and Sigurdsson, like my mum's kind of main staples in her team, and they do pretty well for most seasons. Like they have to be really croaked to even consider getting rid of them. Like if they're out for 2 weeks, she'll just put them on the bench. Like she ain't bothering. She's not getting rid of them. So I think Sigurdsson, yeah, like Brett said, that he's kind of flown under the radar a little bit. I mean, we do talk about him. We have talked about him on this stream, to be fair, but I'm not sure. Like, I noticed how many points necessarily.
Yeah, for him, what surprised me was that he was above Son and Pogba in points. And when I saw that, especially above Son, who was arguably been one of the players of the season, from an FPL perspective, I was like, wow, Sigurdsson has more points than Son, which is crazy for me.
Yeah, definitely. Jay, your thoughts on Sigurdsson over Jota?
I think one of the reasons he's kind of gone under the radar compared to other seasons is because, especially at Swansea, you got used to him, like Kurt said, assisting a lot, but also you'd have those free kicks every now and again score.
Yeah.
Which, when someone scores a really good free kick, it kind of gets stuck in your mind. So I don't think he's been really doing that at Everton. Goals he's been scoring are kind of a bit more low key. So you watch him on Match of the Day and then you kind of forget about it. And look at all the underlying stats, and underlying stats are good. They're not putting him up at the top, but they're still good. But you kind of miss the trick there. For me, with the game weeks that are left, if I was going to have him, it would be a punt for this game week. Is Fulham. For me, I don't see any of their other fixtures for an Everton side being givens. Because for me, Crystal Palace on any one day can be decent. And Burnley are going to be, potentially, don't know at the time of the season when they're playing them, they might be fighting for survival. And if I'm putting...
Game week 37, they're playing.
I mean, I would guess by then the bottom three have decided. But that would be guessing, that would be predicting the future, and I could be wrong, and Burnley might really need the victory. So for me, it would only be a one game week punt, but I do like it for that Fulham.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. If the person asking the question has their team set out and planned, and they think, right, I only need to make one move to get the team I want for 35, I would absolutely do that Sigurdsson move for this week, because I would prefer Sigurdsson over Jota away to Southampton.
Yeah.
Because as much as I want Wolves players, and in my current draft, my wildcard, I've got 3. I've got Jota, Jimenez, and Doherty.
Yeah.
But because they've just come off the defeat in the Cup, away to Southampton, who are improving and in need of a win more than Wolves, I'm not actually fancying them that much for that fixture, personally. So I've got them all in my team ready for the double game week where they play 2 at home. But yeah, if I had the choice between Jota or Sigurdsson for this game week specifically, then I would definitely go for Sigurdsson. I think that's quite creative and a potentially lucrative move. So I would go for it. If he's happy with everything else in his team and that's the only move he has to make, go for it.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. I actually think that one that will also fly under the radar a little bit is Tielemans, because of obviously, we're all saying Vardy, but he's done fantastically the last few weeks, and he still has a great fixture as well. It's going to be tough, if there's like 5 spots in midfield and like at least 8 people I think I want there. So, but yeah, Sigurdsson could definitely be a shout. Have we got another one from the chat before I do another one here?
Yes. Okay, there's one from, I'm going to try and pronounce his name, Huthafi Mohammed. Trent Alexander-Arnold or Robertson. So this is kind of a dilemma where I'm facing a little bit. Assuming I only go with one Liverpool defender in this wildcard, I'm definitely going with at least one.
Yeah.
What do we think, guys? Has anyone had this dilemma, and has anyone got TAA or Robertson in their draft currently?
Yeah, well, I've got Robertson, because I've had Robertson all season pretty much, and I have switched him to Trent a fair few times in drafts for the extra cash.
Yeah, of course.
Because it seems to be as a Robertson owner, you can sit there and often see Trent owners getting a nice assist or whatnot for a heck of a lot less money.
Yeah, lately Trent has finally started to return a bit more than Robertson for a change, because it didn't feel like that at the start of the season.
No. So it's been difficult because there's that loyalty. Jay's saying with like Jimenez, for instance, there's that kind of that loyalty I have kind of with Robertson. I think pretty nailed. He rested in the last match. But yeah, he is a lot more money, and obviously if Trent, if Trent's playing a more attacking role, would it be worth the risk? As I've already just said, my bench is hopefully strong going forward now, and it can be stronger with the money from Trent, other than Robertson. So do I risk it? I'm not sure. I've gone back and forth between them quite a lot, if I'm honest. So I'd be interested to see what the other guys say.
Jay, have you had this dilemma between these two?
I believe one of the questions we got from Twitter was also
Yes,
very similar
it was
one.
similar. At Blues Attack, if you are keeping two Liverpool, should you go with a full back and a forward who play on opposite wings to each other, as most crosses tend to go to the back post? So Trent plus Mane or Robson plus Salah. And given the former is 4 mil cheaper, is it even a debate? So yeah, it's a very similar question, really.
Yeah, so for me, the idea of value comes in quite big because Mane and Trent seem so much cheaper than Robertson and Salah. And the question kind of puts it across as if Trent's putting the ball in, it's likely to go to, if Firmino's in the middle, Firmino or Mane. And then if Robertson's put it in, it's likely to go to Firmino or Salah. And for me at the moment, with all the stats that I've been looking at recently on the Liverpool attack, ever since Salah's moved out right, because he was playing up front for earlier in the season, his output has dropped while Mane and Firmino's has increased. So for me, it's a gamble because you've only got 5 game weeks odd left. I'm going to gamble with Trent and Mane, and potentially after the double game weeks, Firmino being a better solution than Salah, Robertson.
Interesting.
There's no way I can say this will definitely happen. It will be the better choice. I especially worry as Salah has now broken the duck of getting that 50th goal.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of it could have potentially been pressure on him to get that goal to join the 50 club. Now he's got it. There's every chance that he now has the pressure lifted and he goes on to have a great rest of it. But Mane is also very close to getting that golden boot. He has a very good end to the season. He can get the goal. Kane injured now. Who knows what could happen? And as I don't know what happens, I generally prefer to go with the cheaper options.
I can see Brett agonising there.
I am a bit. Yeah. This is.
I mean, I think Kurt will be happy that I'm actually thinking of not having Salah.
Don't bring me into this. I'm happy either way. I support my friends.
Hang on now. When I sold him, you're all like yes, and then when I bought him back again, you gave me a load of stick. Now Jay's thinking of selling.
So I'll bring him back. I'm going to get stick. Okay, I need to remember
is
that.
Salah in your draft, Nim? Just out of interest, just very quickly, yes or no? Is he in your draft or not?
He is not currently in my draft, but I have a plan.
Okay, interesting.
So the plan is that hopefully somebody can become Salah if I want to go back to Mane and Salah again. So because they have done me well, the two of them have actually dragged me up the rankings. You know, I was close to nearly in the 200,000 a couple of weeks back, but since having both of them in my team, I have, you know, really kind of gone up in the rankings. So it is difficult losing one of them.
For sure. Kurt, Trent, or Robbo?
If you're needing money, you've probably got to go for Trent. If money isn't an option, which for me it isn't, and I'm most likely going to go with that, I've got to go Robertson. I didn't realise he had 10 assists. It took me by surprise when I was looking at him. I thought, 10 assists, flipping it. Where have they come from? 180 points as well. You can't really turn that down. It's tried, it's tested, and it's proven. And there isn't anyone else that can play there. No one can say Moreno with a straight face if they're going to say that. And Milner is only an option if they need to rest him or he's injured. Whereas Alexander-Arnold, 1 goal, 7 assists, not too far behind. He has been swapped around here and there. So just for safety at this point in the season, it's not as if this is game week 5 and you're thinking, oh, I've got to maybe plan ahead, maybe build my money up a bit just so I've got more money come the end of the season. This is do or die. So I'd go Robertson. Points-wise, it's more effective.
I kind of think the other way. It's near the end of the season. So now's the time for me to go big or go home. Really go and take that risk and try and get as high a rank as possible. Or if it does go down and go, you know what? I got to game week 34, 35. I was close. I went for the big finish. Didn't pay off. So I suppose that's where we're different.
That's a fair point.
Yeah. But also I think you've got to think that Liverpool are obviously wanting to win the league, and surely they're a stronger side with Trent in it, you know? So why would they want to? Yeah, okay, they've got Champions League, so they might want to rotate, but I don't know. I mean, we've only got a certain amount of weeks left, and they've only got a certain amount of games left. You know, surely teams just put out their stronger sides as often as they can, I would have thought.
Yeah,
But...
they're going to rest after Game Week 30. Surely just put the effort
Yeah.
in now.
Yeah, exactly.
And to be honest,
get on
they
with
have-
it. You get paid enough money,
They
damn
have
it.
beaten Porto 2-0, so, I mean, I would hope Liverpool get the job done away against Porto.
Mm.
Yeah.
By the way,
I think...
Alonso has scored.
Yeah,
Oh, cool.
1-0 Chelsea.
Alonso.
Wow.
Anyone
I think
bring him
Kurt
in?
makes a really good point there about Robbo, because if money wasn't an option, if it wasn't a factor, then I would go Robbo. Like Kurt said, I know teams want to put out their strongest side, but there is going to be rotation. Trent's obviously had this little injury worry now and again that kind of brings him off early, and obviously Robertson was suspended from the Champions League game against Porto, so he's had a bit of rest now. So for the next couple of weeks, at least, Robertson, if money wasn't a factor, I would go him. But I've still got Trent at the moment because I bought earlier. I've still got some value tied up in him, so he's a very cheap option for me to have Trent. You know, I've actually considered having both personally, because when everyone's discussing Man City players, this is why I'm like still scratching my head about the wild card, because we're all talking about Man City players and which ones to go for the double game week, and I'm thinking, well, Liverpool have a much better schedule. The games are spread out a bit more. They've got Cardiff and Huddersfield in back-to-back games. So I'm like, I'm either going to triple up on Mane, Salah and Trent, or Trent, Robbo and Salah, basically. Mm-hmm. And I seem to be the only one here who still has Salah, because I just can't seem to drop him before those games.
That's precisely why I've got that spot there with that money there, because I would like Salah for those games with Mane too.
Yeah.
But that's why I want to go tack. I definitely wouldn't be considering double in defence, but I can see why. I mean, they have one of the best defensive records.
They do, and Huddersfield, Cardiff, are they going to score against Liverpool? You know, it's like almost a banker clean sheet in those two.
Fulham.
Good point.
I've tried the Liverpool double up in defence and watched Mane get points when I could have had Salah and Mane. So I am, to be honest, I'm doing it with Brighton. At the moment, I've got two Brighton defenders. I think Brighton, Liverpool, but I'm not sure I can double up on defence again. Not with how it stung me with that one Ryan Babel goal.
Yeah,
which I called at the beginning, by the way.
And he was in my draft team, so
players love scoring against their old clubs. I knew Babel would get the goal against Liverpool. It was obvious.
See, that's why you want to watch out for Lukaku. Just saying.
Okay, shall we move on to another question?
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
Sorry.
Is that a yes? Is that a yes? And you want to move on to another question?
Yeah. She's so focused on the stream, she was excited for another question.
She's so excited about a new question. That was what it was for. I'm wearing headphones here. Jeez.
Jesus.
I think we're all wearing headphones. I'm glad one ear was off.
PTSD after that.
Apologies, everyone watching with earphones. That probably was a bit of a shock.
Don't
top off yet, though. Like, come on.
No, we're winning, so it's not quite as important.
Is it 3-0 now, or?
No,
I should hope it's 3-0.
It's a side netting.
It's side netting.
A yellow card earlier
for a yellow card.
Sorry. Okay.
Professional name.
Okay. Sorry. He would like some help. He's not on his wild card. He has Son, Mane, Hazard, Pogba, and Vardy. He's transferred in Jimenez already with his full transfer, and he says he needs Eriksen, KDB, Aguero, and Daffy, and wants to know if he should -12 to bring them all in, or bring in 2 for just the -8 and leave the others till game week 35. If so, which one out of those is the must, please?
So to confirm, who's going out and in that -12?
He doesn't say who's leaving, but he says that he needs, or he believes he needs Eriksen, KDB, Aguero, and Duffy. So He's already got people like Son, Mane, Hazard, Pogba, and Vardy, though. So he doesn't actually say who's leaving and whether one of those is leaving for the others, unfortunately. So maybe we should just go with take a -12. Yay or nay? Jay, -12?
Yeah.
Nay. Kurt?
No.
Brett?
No.
As well on that one. Okay, so considering it was that or the -8, let's say we're siding with -8 if at all. Who would we say would be most important out of the Eriksen, KDB, Aguero, and Duffy?
The thing I've noticed is in the players he doesn't have Man City. So my gut instinct would be to get that Man City coverage. It's got Spurs coverage with the Son. Got Liverpool coverage with Mane, Chelsea coverage, got Man U coverage. And the players he's looking at, Spurs, Eriksen, he's got Son. KDB, Aguero, I'd probably lean towards Aguero. And with Duffy is one of those, it's a 1 week punt for me because the fixtures in Gameweek 35 are not good enough where I look at him and think, yes, definitely go and bring in Shane Duffy. I think he could get a very big score in 34. 35, I'm a lot less confident. And then after that, I'm not sure I want him at all. So I would say a -8 looking at that, and it would be Aguero and Duffy if I was looking at players. Because KDB's still got that injury issue. Who knows? He could suddenly play 30 minutes and get injured again.
I mean, if you've got Son already and you feel like you need to have some of these other people, then I think Jay's right. I think at least one of the City would be worth it. A lot of people going KDB feeling like he's nailed. I don't know. I mean, I'm not too sure he is he? I mean,
I'd say he's nailed for the Palace game, and then that's about as far as we know. Really.
Yeah, true.
That's why I've considered KDB, because one, I feel criminal to go without any City players. So if I go no Aguero, no Sterling, I'm like, well, shall I just get KDB in so I don't get hounded on YouTube when I put my video up? At least I've got KDB in, and no one has a go at me for not having City. But yeah, KDB he's shown good form now in the last couple of games, but he hasn't exactly been prolific, so it's still a bit of a stab in the dark that he's going to have an amazing end to the season. I'd still feel much safer with Sterling. It's just obviously the extra cost. If I was that guy, I think Jay makes a good point. Aguero does seem like a very sensible option. And personally, if I was him, I didn't have a wild card, I would take a hit to get Duffy in. Personally, I think Duffy is, statistically, he's going to get you at least 4 points in this game week. Like at home to Bournemouth and Cardiff, granted, he could get an own goal or get a booking. He could end up with a 2 and a 1, like 3 points, for example. But probability-wise, he's going to get at least 4, 2 and 2. And then you've got the chance of 1 clean sheet. If you get 1 clean sheet out of those 2, you're laughing, because it's going to be probably 7 or 8 points for the game week then. He's one of the highest. He's the highest scoring defender, I think. His touches in the box is right up there. His goal attempts is right up there. They've got a lot to play for. They're scrapping for survival. They need to win these 2 games. I would definitely take a hit to get Duffy in this week, personally. Yeah.
Yep. So, Kurt, any of those you think are worth that you would anything different, or are you on board with that? A City player and Duffy.
Yeah, it's getting to that time in the season. They're both going to be fighting for it, so I think they're both going to be scoring goals, Liverpool and Man City. So I think City coverage is vital, especially even though they've got tough games, double game week, and he's got Duffy in there, and I'm captaining Dunk. So either something is wrong with him and myself, or he's a very smart man, and I'm going to vote for the latter. Yeah, I like what he's done. I think Brighton, at least one Brighton defender from the start of this game week, is a must for the 4 games. It's simple, really.
Cool. Okay, we had one here at Ryan FX7 asks, according to you, who are the offensive players who are guaranteed to play both games in double game week 35 from Spurs, Arsenal, Manchester United and City? City? I think that's a really tough question, personally, Ryan. Just putting that out there.
It is, right?
Yeah, just making us feel like, like we're just going to get it
Can
all
you just
wrong.
quickly repeat the question, Nim? Who's the guaranteed attackers from who?
Offensive players guaranteed to play both games in the double game week from the big.
In 35.
Yeah,
So
big
it's
four
Spurs,
of the
Arsenal,
six.
Man U, and Man City.
Yeah.
The double game weeks, I
hang on.
believe, apart from.
Yeah, I think Arsenal. You're taking a chance. There's no way you can guarantee Lacazette or Aubameyang to start both because they rotate a lot. So I'd say if we were placing our bets on attackers to start, I would rule out Arsenal even from consideration personally. United, I mean, you've got Rashford and Lukaku moving around, so that's a bit annoying. They've got a big game against Barcelona as well. So I wouldn't even. I'm scared. If you're talking about guaranteed to start both, I don't think either of them are as well. Oh God, this is very.
I don't think there is anyone. I mean, until we know about the
I'm
press
happy to put
as
my
well.
neck on the line here. I've got three,
Go on.
and I've got them in order
Done.
of how I think likely. I think Paul Pogba, most likely. I wouldn't pick him, but Paul Pogba is the one that if I look at all of those 4 teams, I go Paul Pogba's the one that's likely to play in all of those games.
I'd agree with that. Would agree with that.
I'm then putting my neck out and saying Son and Eriksen will start because I just don't see what Poch is going to do if he still wants to get top 4.
Yeah.
Outside of those 3, don't ask me anymore. Those are the 3 I'm putting my neck on the line for. And you're more than welcome to come back and have a go at me if I've got it wrong. But it is a complete guess at this stage.
Yeah. Kurt, what about you?
I think as much as Jay did sort of contradicts himself by saying he's going to put his neck on the line for that complete guess.
Well, it is a guess. But yeah, I'm backing myself. I think I'll be right.
No, I agree with that. I think as much as they're in such a good position for the Man City game, they probably could do with having both Son and Eriksen playing. That can't be their only sort of route to the top 4 because they are currently in the top 4 and they're in a good position for the top 4 as well. So they don't, granted they're, of course, they'd love to win the City game. I don't think it's a vital. It sounds bad when you say it. I don't think it's a vital game just simply because they've still got a chance for top 4, in the Premier League. And if they do rest Eriksen, they do rest Son. Let's say Dele Alli's not back in time for the weekend. Harry Kane's gone. I'm expecting my call-up to play because I don't have many other players to play. They haven't signed anyone. They haven't got too many backup players, but could it mean Fernando Llorente potentially starts up front and Son is rested and that's the only one that is rested? That's a slight
I think
worry.
it all depends on that Son injury personally. If he's fine, if he's good, I think he plays. I just can't see
Especially after such a good game against City as well. You're going to keep the flow going rather than disrupting his rhythm.
I would thought so. He'd definitely get minutes anyway, I should imagine. But, you know. Cool. Okay, should we have one more question from the chat before we have Jeff's Corner question?
Yeah, sure. Just quickly, a quick shout out to Evan Chowdhury. So his question's kind of been mentioned already, but it's funny because he says, is it crazy to go without any Man City players and keep Salah, Mane and Robertson in the wild card? And he's ranked 1,940.
Wow.
So what I wanted to shout out him for is because that's basically exactly what I'm thinking to do.
Yeah.
And I'm undecided on that. But I wouldn't say it's crazy because of that Cardiff and Huddersfield fixture, I'm looking at that Liverpool, better schedule. They rotate less and they're going for the title. So
what I learned in the last double is that you're better off keeping the players that have done you well until this point, especially if you're doing well in rankings like he is. Keep the players that have done you well until this point, and only switch out the players that are not contributing anything to a team or have dropped off form recently and really aren't likely to, come back into form for me, that's definitely your likes of punching, get rid of players like that and fill them with, then you can take a punt on some double game week players with those sorts of players, But for me, I'm really, really trying to hold on to the players that have done well for me this season. Your Jimenez's, your Mane's. It will be Robbo or Trent, but if I can keep Robbo, then I will. I'm definitely trying. I'm even struggling with myself whether I should keep Hazard, if I'm honest with you. Like, we haven't really even touched upon him this evening, but look at the last 2 game weeks. He has done brilliantly. Yes, okay, he has Liverpool up next, but if anyone's going to score against Liverpool, you'd expect it to be Eden, So, and then it's just difficult. It's really, really difficult. I just trying to stick with the players that are in form, that have done me well so far, and then just try and add to it. And I'm trying not to get too caught up in the double game weeks because I'm banking on that the players with form will get me more points over the players who might just get more minutes. That's how I'm.
Yeah. What Jay was saying earlier, a bit like with his captain choice this week, he captained Salah because he saw it as an opportunity where people were looking at Vardy and Hazard. So from a rank point of view, thinking, well, this is a chance to captain a player here, like Salah, a big player that can deliver on his day. And for a change, he's maybe more of a differential than he normally would be, which is an opportunity to jump up the ranks, isn't it? It's kind of go all in, and as we get into the end of the season, try and boost up the ranks. So for this Evan, who's below 2,000 OR, which is an amazing rank, this is he is seeing this as an opportunity now. Wow, I've got a chance of maybe finishing the top 1,000, top 100, or first place is quite a way ahead now. But if you were in the top 1 to 2,000, you'd still think, wow, I've got a chance of winning this here, So if he can accept the fact that it is a big risk to go without City players, he also knows that a lot of people wildcarding in the top 2,000, the top 10K, they are getting rid of Salah this week. They are getting rid of Mane. They are getting rid of Salah. They are looking at the City's double game week. So he's taking a risk. If he doesn't want to consolidate his rank and he's thinking, let's go all in, whether I try and win it or I finish 20, 30K, I might drop down the ranks. If he's comfortable with that, then that would be an epic move, and you should go for it because it could pay off massively, But it's a question of, do you want to kind of consolidate now, and try and just finish where he is? It's weighing up those 2 options, But there is an opportunity there, Evan, because people are looking at City options, and a lot of people are selling Salah. So good luck, mate. Anyway, to be in the top 2,000 is amazing.
Well done.
And I'm thinking to do the same as him. So, mate, you're not crazy at all. You're really not crazy. So Marcus Logan wants to talk about Brighton's attack for this double game week. So obviously Kurt has mentioned Glenn Murray, and we spoke a lot about the defence. Now, is there anyone looking at any other attackers from Brighton? Or there's word of Pascal Gross potentially coming back to fitness. There's obviously, Andone, Knockhart as well that Jay mentioned. Is any Brighton attackers making it into your wildcards?
Bissouma.
Bissouma, yeah, I didn't mention him actually. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, no, he just looked really good in the cup.
You mentioned him in your video, didn't you, Nim, recently?
I did. I think maybe, but I've definitely been looking at Knockout the last few weeks. Definitely looked at Knockout in the free hit, and he almost made it in several times. It's just talking to people who are Brighton fans, who know Brighton really well, and I hold those people in high esteem, and they just can't seem, a bit like us with Emery, I guess, to find a pattern with who gets played, regularly for their team. And so it's that thing where I think if they've got a double game week, I'd much rather know I've got somebody as nailed as they can be. Obviously, injury, you can't even predict that. But, if I'm going to go with a double game week player, especially like Brighton, I think I don't want to put my money in an attacker to have them only play one game from Brighton. You know, I don't mind risking that with, say, a City player or, you know, somebody I know is proven and has got a lot of form and that sort of thing. It's just not for me, but so I've kind of shied back away, only because as well that those spots are quite limited, and I'm trying to set up my wildcard team for the rest of the season now. I don't want to look at it for 2 game weeks, which is what everyone seems to be doing. I'm seeing draft after draft after draft, and they're great drafts for the next 2 game weeks, brilliant. But I don't want to then be thinking, oh, now I need to take I really want Salah, or I really want somebody, you know, the only way I can get that is a -8, you know, a -12. So I'm really trying to think as my team as a whole, if you see what I mean, rather than just, and I think if I get a Brighton midfielder in and then 2 Brighton defenders, then it's trying to figure out how I then shift those people on for other people later on down the line. And I think it just probably means I'll go without, to be honest, any attacking, to be honest. I mean, I could see why people would go Murray if you could figure a way of how you could turn Murray into somebody slightly more expensive as time goes on. Then that's, you know, that's worth a punt possibly. As Kurt said, he's going for him, and he's starting, and he plays 2 games, and he can score goals. We know he can score goals. So, yeah, I mean, he could be a worth the risk, but I would say whatever you do, if you go any attack, just make sure you know you've got the money to switch it to somebody else further down the line, because are you really going to want that person? I mean, you might. I mean, they might be brilliant between now and the end of the season, but there's just other people I prefer at the moment, for me personally.
That's the issue, isn't it? It's the question of just not having enough space to fit them in. There's so many options in the midfield. Jay, you mentioned Knockaert earlier, so you're considering him, which would obviously mean you're having to avoid the likes of maybe Deulofeu or Jota, maybe. So what's your thinking on Knockaert? Do you think he's worth a shout?
Well, the plan with Knockaert would always be Game Week 35, transfer to Jota.
Okay, yeah, so it's just a 1 week punt.
Because Deulofeu and Jota aren't too far away from Knockaert's price, where you can have that as something flexible.
Yeah.
I would only have 2 Brighton players. Either going to be 2 defence, gamble that they get the clean sheet, or it's going to be 1 defence and Knockaert. I can't bring myself to bring in a player that isn't showing the current form in a double game week like Murray. Yes, I'm fully aware Murray is a clinical finisher on his day.
Yeah.
Could absolutely perform in this double game week. I'm by no means saying he won't. But he just hasn't been doing it recently. So I cannot bring him in. The Knockaert is the one to me that looks like he's got the underlying stats and the actual FPL points, where I would maybe take that risk, but it would be with the fact that I know this is a 1 game week punt because I'm on my wildcard. And I probably my gut feeling is you're more likely to get clean sheet points from Brighton than you are attacking.
So at least then with Knockaert, you'll get the extra point for the clean sheet, I guess, over somebody like Glenn Murray. Yeah,
I wasn't even thinking that.
It's fair.
Good point.
it's a
I often forget midfielders get clean sheet points.
Yeah, well, that's why Hazard got as many points as as Vardy did this week. Cool. So before we just go to Jeff's corner, unless there's anything else anyone wants to add about Brighton attack, is there?
There's just one thing, not about Brighton's attack, but there was a comment actually from Brian Ewell in the comments. And I spoke earlier about Sterling. You know, we were speculating about Sterling not starting against Palace, and he said, "Oh, you've got me worried now. I'm going to transfer out Sterling." And what I wanted to say to him was, look, even if Sterling doesn't start this Palace game, I wouldn't. If you want to go with Sterling, don't just take him out because it's sort of Palace, you know, because you're on the wild card now. You can fill your bench with good players anyway. And Sterling, if he doesn't start, your first sub's probably going to come in anyway. So if you've got like the likes of Jota or Delafeu on the bench anyway, it's not the end of the world if Sterling doesn't start. So look, if you want Sterling, don't go off what we've said and take him out.
I didn't say take him out. Just say
no. It's more just speculation.
Yeah.
I would guess if I had to put my money on, Sterling may get rested in the Palace game, but. Just want to say to Brian, look, it's still viable to keep Sterling, play him, and if he doesn't feature, which he normally doesn't, if he doesn't start, a sub comes in. So yeah, that's it.
Cool. Before we do go to Jeff's Corner then, as we mentioned at the beginning of the show, 3 of us have been nominated in the Football Blogging Awards. I know that there's a bit of discussion about whether we might do some sort of vlog on the journey of us doing and going there and things like that. So we just kind of wanted to put it out there. I know Jay wanted to ask some people in the stream whether it's something you guys would be interested in watching, us doing a bit of a vlog and putting it up on the channel. So that's out to the chat.
Put it in the poll. Put it as a poll.
That's
Jay.
what I'm literally just about to do.
Right, okay. So Jay's going to do that.
Stall for a few minutes.
Okay, and whilst he's doing that, I will ask the Jeffers Corners question, but I won't come to Jay first. So the Jeffers Corner question is a Game of Thrones question. And so it's kind of exciting with Game of Thrones coming back very soon. And it's yeah, I can't wait. Which character who's previously been killed off in the Game of Thrones would each of us bring back for season 8 and why? So, Kurt, who would you bring back who's pop their clogs? Cock their clogs?
Cock their clogs.
Got that the wrong way around.
Clogs is a new one.
Cock their clogs. Who would you like to see back?
Well, this will be my last WildCats stream, just to mention it to everyone. I've never watched Game of Thrones.
Wow.
Wait, don't we now have to explain it to him in a minute?
Now we're going to give all the spoilers to him now when we talk about who we want to come back. We're literally going to ruin the entire series for you now.
I'm never going to watch it. I'm never going to watch it.
Just hold your ears.
But I suppose, spoiler alert to anyone in the chat as well, if they haven't caught up properly. I had to read up on this because there is a few that I like on there that I know might have died, but there's so many characters that die, I get confused not knowing who anyone is. But Ygritte, is that how you say it?
Ygritte, yeah.
Ygritte. Because
Are you talking about
that,
You Know Nothing, Jon Snow?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay, that's what I think you're talking about anyway.
Yeah, they're probably, just in case anyone's watching like the first couple of seasons that hasn't caught up, there's probably some spoiler alerts coming here. Yeah. So just so you guys know, if you're still watching it, be careful.
Yeah.
Only because I find her very attractive.
Mm.
And she's got nice hair. So I just thought, I just went through who I think is attractive. I thought she was on top of the list.
Yeah, she was on my list.
Dead? Yes, that's ticked off every single box
do you have
for me.
four choices just in case other people say yours? Because I literally have 4 people.
I literally have one choice. So I hope you don't say mine.
I have a few. So obviously I kind of went a bit down the Kurt line. And,
did we let Brett go first just because he's only got 1 pick?
That would be perfect.
Yeah, I'm just thinking. So
yeah, but he's probably going to choose one of our 4 now.
Well, I've got 4, so I've got plenty.
Okay.
This one wasn't hard for me actually. I thought of someone straight away. It's a character that I missed ever since they died. So Oberyn, I would definitely bring back Oberyn.
First on my list.
Yeah, there was something about that scene. It just stayed with me, like the horror of that scene when he died and his head got crushed and stuff. It was disturbing, and for such a cool character who was like, sort of the savior in a way. To see him die like that, just when you think he's about to win the fight in the trial by combat as well, and save Tyrion, to see him die that way against the Mountain was pretty shocking. So, and he was just a really cool character, wasn't he? He's just a legend, really. So yeah, I'd like to see him come back. I know obviously he won't, but it would be cool to see him come back and avenge his family and kill the Mountain. Yeah,
that'd be some going.
That would be awesome.
So okay, so I went down the Kurt route a little bit, and I wouldn't mind seeing Carl Dre go back just for the same good-looking reasons, because he's quite attractive. I did like Kathleen Stark, so Mummy Stark. I thought she was a really cool character, and I did kind of when that whole bloody scene happened, it was sort of like, quite a lot of cool characters have gone here in one go.
Yeah.
But top of my list was Ygritte, just because I think that love triangle with the Mother of Dragons, Daenerys, and Jon Snow would just be quite amusing to see a wildling take on the Mother of Dragons over their man. Could be a good soap episode, I think. So that was my kind of couple there. So Jay, who was your four?
So I deliberately tried to not pick people that I thought would affect the way the story went, that could actually still offer something in the final season. So Oberyn was my first choice, and I did also like Ygritte, just because I thought that would be interesting, like you said, in him, about how they would interact, and I think be a key player in the final battles to come. The Blackfish, Brian Tully, was one, just because I thought he didn't get much airtime, but he was an interesting character. But if I had to pick out the ones that hadn't been said, it would probably be Marjorie Tyrell. Partly for the same reasons as Kurt and him, but I also think just the way she was portrayed in the show, if there was any book readers, it kind of seems more important in the show than she does in the book. I think she could have been a key player, more in the kind of line of, say, more of a political player than, say, someone in the final battle. Yeah. So those are the ones I was looking at.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, no, she was definitely one of my faves as well. I like Marjorie. So
anyone that comes up against Cersei,
has
some success. I was quite happy.
There's a few comments about this as well. So Akib says Oberyn all day. Yeah. Edison says he'd bring back Ned Stark, legend. Ned Stark is an absolute legend. Yeah. He said he would love to see the Lannisters crap themselves. Sheriff Ed can't wait for the final season. And then I'm going to try and pronounce it again. Sorry, bud. Huthaifa says that his club's name is Bran Stark FC as FPL team. So quality.
So he'd like to see Bran back. Cool. Jay, I know it wasn't long on the polls, but is anybody interested in seeing us vlog?
I'm trying to get the latest results, so I literally refreshed just as we were talking about what was in the comments. And awesome. So okay, got the results now. Shall I start with the vlog one first, or should I do the FPL
build
ones?
Some suspense.
Okay, so we'll start off with the usual one, who to captain for game week 34. The options we have are Heung-min Son, Duffy, Jamie Vardy, and Glenn Murray. There was an option of other, because I'm fully aware there are plenty of other good players playing. Those seem to be the most popular choices on Twitter so far. We have a tie at 40% each for Heung-min Son and Duffy, with Vardy getting 6%. Fortunately, Murray getting 0%. And then 13% on other. So it looks like the majority of people looking at Son or Duffy. Then we got what chips are you using this week for it's still relevant. I'm assuming most are going to be saying wildcard, but it would just be interesting to see if anyone's doing anything else. We got 76% on wildcard, which we expected. Do have 7% on triple captain and 15% playing nothing, but bench boost and free hit getting absolutely no love this game week.
Does that mean somebody's triple captain Duffy?
Maybe.
Wow.
And then we got who will get more game time related to the question of Sterling and Aguero. And we have the votes coming in at 58% going with Aguero, 25% going Sterling, and be about the same as it's 16%. And then finally we do get to should we do an FPL WildCats vlog at the FPAs. And I don't know if this is because it just hasn't refreshed and people haven't voted. But it is at 100% to yes.
Woo!
Because I put it so late, I don't know. So maybe for the next stream, I will put it from the very beginning. Cool. And we can get a bit of a better gauge around that. So,
Yes.
I think that is everything. So, thank you guys so much for joining us on this stream. Make sure to leave any comments in the comments down below. If we can do, we'll get to them. Make sure to share this out as well so other people can get involved. Like and subscribe, and we will see you guys next time.
Bye, guys.